Hello students, welcome to the YouTube channel of Braj Education Center. My name is Sandeep Braj. Today we'll be discussing an important topic of class 12th physics, Gauss's law and its applications. Gauss's law talks about electric flux through a surface which is enclosing a charged body. Before we talk about Gauss's law, let's understand what is electric flux. Now let us consider that this is a surface on which water is falling, which is traveling at v meter per second, and this surface area is ds. The water is falling to the surface normal to it, and the volume of water which is falling per unit time is equal to v ds, and this constitutes water flux. In the same way, when we talk about a charged body, we know charged body always has electric field lines associated with it. So if there is a surface around a charged body, obviously we cannot talk about anything that's physically passing through the surface. We cannot observe that thing, but electric field lines pass through the surface. And those electric field lines which are passing normal to the surface constitute electric flux. We can have a situation where the given surface is actually inclined at an angle to the electric field. So this is the electric field, and the surface is actually inclined at an angle of theta with this electric field. This is the area vector for the surface, and this is the direction of electric field with the angle being theta. In that case, we define flux as vector E dot vector ds. It's a dot product which we integrate for the whole surface. This is a line integral over the whole surface. So this is about electric flux. What does Gauss's law state? If there is a charge configuration and the surface enclosing the charge configuration, then Gauss's law states that the electric flux through any surface which is enclosing a charge configuration is 1 upon epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. This charge configuration can be anything: a positive charge, negative charge, a sphere, a line charge, or anything like that. Now, when we have phi, we define phi as vector E dot vector ds, and Gauss's law defines phi as 1 upon epsilon naught q times. So we can equate them, and this gives us the application of Gauss's law, that is to find electric field for a given surface. One more thing we consider: if I have a charge configuration like a line charge, let us say it is uniformly charged with a positive charge of q, or when we have a point configuration also having a q charge, it is not necessary that there is a surface around it. But when I want to calculate electric field at this point, then I need to imagine a surface which is enclosing it, and that imaginary surface is known as a Gaussian surface, which has certain conditions to be met. So what are the conditions of the Gaussian surface? In the Gaussian surface, the electric field at all points should be same, and for example, if this distance is r, then we know that at all these points electric field will be same, and at all these points also electric field will be normal to the surface. These two conditions are to be fulfilled by a surface to be considered as Gaussian surface. Electric field line at all points of the surface should be same, and the electric field direction should be normal to the surface. So for a line charge, as we can see here, the imaginary Gaussian surface is what? It's a cylinder having radius r. Similarly, when I'm talking about a point charge, like this is a point charge, then around it we can imagine the Gaussian surface to be a sphere of whatever distance we are taking. If the distance is r, then the sphere has a radius r. So this is how we apply Gauss's theorem. For whatever charge configuration we consider, we take a Gaussian surface and then we find electric field for that. So first application we'll do today is for a line charge. So using Gauss's theorem, we'll be finding electric field due to a line charge. So line charge means we have a straight body having a uniform charge Q, and as we discussed just now, the Gaussian surface imagined is a cylinder. We consider to find the electric field at a point P, for which we'll take a small surface. The vector ds is normal here. This distance is r, and electric field is also in the same direction. So what have we considered here? We have considered a line charge having uniform charge of Q, and we are taking electric field due to this line charge at a distance r from the line charge. The surface charge density for this, linear charge density for this is given by lambda, which is equal to Q by L. So first of all, we use the definition of electric field to write phi. As we know, phi is equal to vector E dot vector ds. This angle, as you can see between them, is 0 degree. So as we integrate it over the whole surface, it will be E into 2 pi r L. 2 pi r L is the surface area of a cylinder. As we know, height of the cylinder in this case is the length of the surface charge. Secondly, we say also from Gauss's law, phi is equal to Q by epsilon naught. So we equate both of them and we can get electric field. So E dot 2 pi r L is equal to Q by epsilon naught. Therefore E is equal to Q by L 1 upon 2 pi r epsilon naught. I have written Q by L separately so that I can substitute lambda for it also if I want. Depending on the data given, we can use the formula to calculate electric field due to a line charge. This is our first application of Gauss's law. This is not very important in terms of board exams or questions. Mostly in board exams, we are asked to find electric field due to a uniformly charged spherical shell. So we'll be talking about the uniformly charged spherical shell as our second application. First, we did the Gauss's theorem law. Using Gauss's law, we found the electric field for a line charge. For a line charge, what did we say? The Gaussian surface is a cylinder of radius r and length L. Now we go to electric field due to a uniformly charged spherical shell. Remember, when we say spherical shell, it means we are talking about what? A hollow sphere. So in the hollow sphere, the charge is at the surface of the sphere. It is uniformly charged, means the charge density is uniform throughout. And we start our discussion of the second application. From the figure, this is a uniformly charged spherical shell having charge Q and radius capital R. The charge is uniformly distributed and the surface charge density sigma is given by Q upon the surface area. So what is the surface area? Surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r square. So from here Q is equal to sigma into 4 pi r square. We can also take this instead of Q in our derivations. For finding electric field, we take a Gaussian surface having radius small r as drawn in the figure, and at a point P on this Gaussian surface, this is our small surface and this surface is making vector L having area vector ds. We can clearly see electric field is also normal to the surface. and we'll consider three cases for various positions of the point P. In this first case, the point P is lying outside the uniformly charged spherical shell. So our first case is where the small r is greater than capital R. As we had done earlier, we start with our definition of electric flux. Electric flux is the integral of vector E dot vector ds. In this case, when we take about surface area, we find the surface area of this Gaussian surface. So the Gaussian surface, remember, radius is small r. So this becomes E dot 4 pi r square, with the angle being 0, cos 0 is 1. Also from Gauss's law, we can write that phi is equal to q by epsilon naught. So when we equate them, we get E dot 4 pi r square is equal to q by epsilon naught. E is equal to q upon 4 pi r square epsilon naught. Remember, we can substitute E over here, and this would be capital R. We can get sigma into 4 pi capital R square upon 4 pi small r square epsilon naught. Therefore, electric field for the point where this P lies outside the uniformly charged spherical shell comes out to be sigma r square upon epsilon naught small r square. So it is a factor of both this distance and surface density, everything. In this case, we can clearly see that for any spherical shell, these things are constant, and I can conclude that electric field is inversely proportional to the square of distance, 1 by r square. Alright, so let me write that very clearly again. What we have concluded after this derivation about the charge sphere from the first case, we have concluded that electric field is inversely proportional to square of distance from the center of the sphere. E is proportional to 1 by r square. This we can use when we make the graph for it. The second case in this is where the point P lies on the surface of the uniformly charged spherical shell. So P is here only. So we'll just modify this thing, and we get electric field is equal to sigma r square upon epsilon naught r square. Both are same in this case, so it becomes sigma by epsilon naught. The third case is where the point P lies inside over here. So this is my Gaussian surface and P is over here. R is less than R. If the point P is lying inside, remember the charge is all only on this over here. It may be plus charge or minus charge, but it is only on the surface. So over here, this Gaussian surface does not enclose any charge. Therefore, we have charge enclosed is equal to 0. Automatically, if no charge is enclosed, electric field will be equal to 0. And this relationship and this relationship helps us to make the graph of variation of electric field with distance for uniformly charged spherical shell, which we'll see. This graph will vary, it will be constant for a certain time, and then it will vary inversely with the square of the distance. So this is what we have in our Gauss's law applications. There is one more application in Gauss's law of application about which we'll be talking in our next video.